For today, I prepared quite a bit of talking points, and I am going to share a Google document. And so, not a lot of fancy slide deck, but to share about GP/LP marketplace and what it can do for you. And this will be more of a collaborative call where I'm also asking for feedback and folks can chime in on any suggestions that you might have. But let me go ahead and share my document. All right, let's talk about the vision of Investbase and kind of my personal vision. The vision of Investbase is to help everyone achieve financial freedom. That was the vision when I started the company. That's the vision I still maintain. That's a personal vision of mine. A little bit of the origin story of Cashflow Portal. I initially applied to Y Combinator a few years ago. And on my very first application, which we got rejected first time, we got in the second time, was the concept of a marketplace for LPs and GPs. So before I start Cashflow Portal, I had this vision of creating a marketplace between GPs and LPs. The last few years, it's almost like I have to build one side of the marketplace before I can finally get to the final destination, which is building a marketplace. But the origin of Cashflow Portal is that I want to build a GP LPs marketplace to achieve the vision of helping everyone achieve financial freedom. As time goes on, you could argue that to help people achieve financial freedom, they also need a great software to manage their properties, to see the financials, to do the accounting, to transfer the money, to have the bank. So everything we do still aligns to that vision. But the missing piece is for the folks, for the LPs, for the folks that work in, doctors, lawyers, and software engineers that have a very busy W-2 job, or entrepreneurs that don't have the time to manage their assets. That is still the missing piece for those folks. There's no way for them to consistently be vested with real estate and get a part of the return. Now, let's shift our kind of a point of view to a GP. Now, a lot of you here are GPs. And as GPs, so I was a GP. I raised about $25 million across 4 syndications and 1,000 plus units as a lead GP across 4 deals. So I have raised money. I know how to raise money. And if I look back on all the investors I got, just anecdotally and based on all the customers we have, as a GP, the way I raise money is through socially, meaning that my friends, my friends of friends, I used to work in tech. So they tend to be also very tech savvy, working, Meta, Google, and so on, and work. So some of my earlier investors were actually engineering director from my previous company, and because he was a key principal on my deal, and a lot of the engineering directors and engineering managers end up investing, for which I'm very appreciative. And then that's the initial seed when I raised the money. My very first raise was a $4 million across 60 investors, 70 investors, actually $60,000 each. And all the future deals is just referrals, friends of friends. There was one friend that told me that oh, I'm investing $50K, and my dad told me never to invest in this kind of stuff. And then the next deal, his dad invested, and then his dad actually invest more than him later on. So, and that's because of the performance. That's because of word of mouth that this actually works. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about how to legitimize syndication, how to legitimize this, like why there is a little bit of a stigma about investing into real estate as opposed to, say, stock market. But that's what I think about my journey as a GP. And the way I get money is I literally have to know these people for many, many, many years, and they have to see me mature. The first time people invest with me is a Class C property in Dallas, Texas. And And I asked them, like, why did you invest? They're like, yeah, because you are house hacking. You like, for the amount of money you earn, you live with like 4 roommates. Like nobody does that. And if the deal doesn't go well, I know you probably will move to Texas and live in one of the units to make it work, which I will, if it didn't work, but it worked. So it takes and I'm saying all of this because it takes a lot of effort to know ALP. So for the folks that, like when we publish this Investbase and so on, people come to us and say, hey, can you help me raise $1 million? And to that, I said, if I can help you raise $1 million and make it super transactional, I will not be owning this business. If I have that power, I'll be doing a lot of other things. So that is something for folks to really drill in. It takes enormous amount, years of like sustained performance to raise a first 50,000. It's not that easy to raise money. And most of the time you raise money because you are intrinsically competent and you have intrinsically good character. And that's what we want Investbase to be. Okay, so as I explained, my vision was to help everyone achieve financial freedom. I want to create a marketplace. It just turned out a marketplace is really hard to create. And I spent the next 5 years creating a software that performed half of that side of the marketplace, which is the supply, which is all the good deals. Let's talk about some of the headwinds if I look at this, problem as a GP. The headwinds is, my deals could be doing well, but they're not doing the best. They're definitely lower than what I told my investors or projected. And my investors are also hearing from all the other like GPs, they also invest with other GPs, that the deals last few years did not perform compared to the pro forma. Lots of foreclosures, lots of deals that we, even on some of my deals, we projected, 6% cash and cash. We did 2%, like the investors like, what happened? And because it happened very infrequently, it takes about 5-10 years to even prove yourself. During those 5-10 years, it's just really, really hard. And I completely empathize. And it's a miracle that we as a company continue to do well despite the macroeconomic conditions. It's very painful the last few years. The headwinds are real. A lot of people have even given more stigma to syndications. People, go back to the stock market. They got burned once. If they ever lost all of their principal, they just vowed to never invest into syndications. And also people invest with one person. If that person decided not to be syndicated anymore, they will not invest with another GP. These are the headwinds in the going into the next few years. There are a lot of other headwinds, as you all kind of feel it. It's a lot harder to raise money in today's market than in 2021 and 2020 and 2022 and 2019 and 2020. It is, and we see it in our records that deals take longer to raise. You raise less, but the assets continue to rise, so you need more principal. The LTV on the loans continue to go down, so you need more down payment. So all of those add to lots of headwinds. In terms of the tailwinds, however, there is the silver lining in all of this, which is we do have the tailwind of AI to make it easier to summarize what a deal is all about. And the LPs are getting more sophisticated. The other tailwind is LPs do get a little bit more knowledgeable about syndications and funds, and that's made possible because of a few things. One, crowdfunding in general. I'm using crowdfunding not as CF crowdfunding, but just crowdfunding in general, raising money from retail investors is getting more acceptable and more known. If I ask people, 6 years ago, do you know anything about syndications? What's a GP? What's an LP? they are like 1 out of say 100 would know what that is, and now I think it's like 10 out of 100, based on the friend circles that I have. And that's a pretty good. That's a 10x improvement in my opinion. Or maybe I just get more like syndication, LP friends. There's that. And underwriting is getting commoditized. Raising money is getting more commoditized, and that is a trend that will only continue. So, what I'm hoping is the interest rate will drop, real estate will become more stable again, and that like we will come out of this cycle. So these are the tailwinds. All right. So that's a little bit of the background. That's a little bit of what Investbase tries to solve. It tries to bridge the gap between LPs and GPs and create a transparent environment for folks to invest. Now, let me pause here for questions before I jump into the more tactical things. Unlike, okay, so I'm a GP. What can I do to increase my chances of getting a LP? Knowing that it doesn't lead to an investment right away. Knowing that the 90% of the work is still on the GP side to make the investment happen, as opposed to like, hey, can I pay you for investments? That's not what Investbase is good at. That's not what Invest is like able to do, and it's intrinsically a difficult problem to solve. So let me pause there. Any questions, any comments? Just you can unmute yourself. You can put in the chat there.
Hey, I've got a question just in general on syndications. What would you say the overall success rate that from your experience that syndications have? And the reason I'm bringing this up is that I had to pump the brakes. I could see that we weren't going to hit our target yield, and I stopped taking in capital, and just so I could preserve the yield that I did have, etc. And I've gotten enormous pushback from, the limited partners. And so I'm curious what you see as a whole of a success rate.
Thank you, Scott. For the success rate, do you mean the success of the project or the success of a complete race? And is this a syndication or this is a fund?
Yeah, I did. I'm going to call it a small syndication where I mean, it was a small fund, basically $1 million that I raised money. And so maybe I'm using it interchangeably, but I was testing it. I was going to raise like 10 to 20 million, but I couldn't get the traction that I wanted in the deals that I was doing. And I was not hitting the yield. So I don't know how to word it, but I'm trying to get a feel for historical data that you're seeing in the life cycle of your business of the success rate that people have had.
Across in 2020, if you bought something in 2022 and we are looking at a 2026, 95 plus of the deals underperform compared to their projections. That's a fact. Yeah. But if you look at venture capital, they also all underperform. So that's also a fact. So we, when you go from a near zero interest environment and when you bought it to today, like most GPs got burned. So I believe you are just you live in an unfortunate time. You're kind of paying for the cost that the last few years GPs were burned, and the LPs were burned because they lost money. Some cases the deal got foreclosed on. Some cases they did a capital call, and the LPs feel like if I do a capital call, I'm gonna lose my money anyway. I'm not gonna do the capital call. There are multiple deals that went under, and so a lot of the GPs that try to raise $1 million with the intention of raising 10 million, they're not successfully raised. And I think for those deals, there are usually like SPVs that like you're like co-sponsored, but in the form of an SPV to raise for another syndication. And you don't exactly know if that syndication will perform because you're not the operator. And then when you raise money, the LP just feel like you're not the operator, so I don't know where this money exactly will end up. Like my money is not in control. If you're the operator, it's maybe a little bit easier. I will say, because they then look at your historical performance. So the operators have a hard time raising money, but between the fund of fund managers, they have an even harder time raising money. And the one with the most amount of problem raising money is probably a blind fund that's trying to raise like $50 million, unless they have an amazing track record, or unless they have been an operator in the past and they switch to this kind of like fund of fund model. So that's what I see in our data. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. I mean,
Yeah.
I've shifted my model that it's working for me, but this isn't about me. I'm just curious because I've got meetings with LPs this week and this is just helpful data. But the good news is there no loss of capital and returns are there. It's just not what we had projected.
Yeah, that's right. It's now our project. That's a common refrain. All right, let's talk about how does Investbase play a role and what you can do. So one, I wanna harp on this point, which is when you raise money, there's a lot of prep work to get to that point. And don't use Investbase of like, I need to close on this deal. I need this $500K from Investbase. That wouldn't happen. And I don't believe there's any platform in the world that can make it happen without you probably losing a ton of equity in the process without the reward. We have seen so many crowdfunding websites that basically take a $35,000 or $50,000 charge, and that's the baseline. And then they charge a fee. They are a broker-dealer platform, and they charge a fee for every dollar raised. But the minimum is going to be $35,000 or whatnot. And they still cannot raise the money. All right. So this is more about building habits. And Investbase is one of those things that you can do. You can go to conferences. You can, do the cold outreach. You can do Facebook ads. But these are the things you can do by leveraging Investbase. First, what you can do is you can feature your profile on Investbase. When you feature your profile, you can put your LinkedIn. You can put an intro video. You can put all your track records. You can put a summary there. You can put all the insights, the type of investors you have. You can put all the podcasts that you appear on, all the references you have. This is not a feature profile, so I don't have anything in here. For the track records, because if you have a deal from Cashflow Portal, they will be automatically synced. And if this is a sold deal, it will automatically reflect the IRR. So let me show you what does that look like on the Investbase side. So if I search for my name, this is my actual public facing profile. This is what it looks like. If I scroll down, so I have a few reviews here, which is pretty cool. And then you hear, if I zoom in, it says returns verify. So this is definitely a good deal. We bought it for $13 million. Technically, Texas is a non-disclosure state, but I put it here anyway. And we achieve a 25% annualized return at 26% IRR. Now, I bought it in 2019 and 2022. Everyone made money during that time. And then Luna Vista, we have a 17% IRR and returns verified. Now, the returns are verified because I use Cashflow Portal to do distributions. And so there's no better place in the world that can verify these returns. And you can see Falls and Old Village, it has not been sold. North Haven Terrace, it has not been sold. So these are the things that I have. Okay. And then you can see these are all my full cycle investments that I made as a LP. Okay. So you can actually look up a person and you can see what they have. And so I made about 15 investments. Now you can see that also some folks left me a review. For this person, it says this is invested. Well, invested, that means that they invested with me. And so Ken is actually a good friend of mine. And they used to work at a big tech company as well. He was my previous coworker. Okay, so that is the first thing one should do, which is feature your profile. Okay. This will take about a few minutes. And so to contact our team if you have any questions on featuring your profile. This is, if you are a Cashflow Portal customer, then this is free to feature. If you're not a customer, you do actually have to pay us to feature. It's a bulletin board. It's a marketplace. It's $159 per month to feature without buying any other product. If you buy a product, then this is free. Okay. The second step is if you are raising money, you can add a review step. And a lot of people, this is how it works. So I'm going to go to dashboard and I'm going to go to Bellevue Square Apartments and I'm going to click into the offering. So I have an offering right now and I'm going to click on manage deal here. There is this thing called prompt LPs to leave a review. And it's highly recommended that you turn this on. You can also turn it off if you want. And what it does is that it will prompt the LPs to leave a review at the end of the investment funnel. So who are going to see that? That only entices the people that fill out the investment for that offering. If they're going to invest with you, do you think what kind of review would they leave you? It's probably a 4-star or 5-star review, right? But if you ask everyone to leave a review, then they may not have a 5-star, 4-star review. That's a trick that GPs can use. And so it does increase the likelihood of a 5-star review. It's almost like a no-brainer why you shouldn't turn it on. So there's that. Okay. So you can prompt the LPs to leave a review, and it's an extra step in the investment funnel. At this time, they have signed the paperwork. They have probably connect with their bank account to start wiring the money. And then there's this one extra step in which they can leave a review. And most people, based on our data, leave a great review because otherwise they wouldn't even invest with you. Okay. So that's the second one, which is probably the most important thing that people can do to increase their chances. Now, you could ask for reviews, and the reviews are anonymous, could be anonymous. And if they're not anonymous, then you only see the first name and the last initial. They don't see the full name. Okay, so for example, if I go into here, so what kind of things get shown? You have the Canyon E, and then Sky T, and so on. And then this will be an anonymous review where you can actually do this. Okay. All right. The other thing is the reviews are not public. So what that means is if you're not logged in, then you actually could not click on anyone. You could not click on anyone. You have to log in. So it's an insider investment network only. You have to log in. Someone has to log in order to see it. None of those pages, especially the reviews, they're not Google indexable. We have changed that. We did a bunch of things to make it to be a private network only. You have to be a member. For the LP, for now, it's actually free because we want to attract as many LPs as possible, but it's free to use it. The next one is about connecting with the operators. So if you are a fund of fund manager and you're looking for good operators, well, you can, for example, you can look at Granite Towers. Granite Towers has also 3 reviews, 5 full cycle, and then these are some of the reviews they have, and then these are the full cycle deals they have. And so, if you are a fund of fund manager and you want to create an SPV and you want to invest into Granite Towers, you simply connect with them. Connecting with anyone is now free. We used to charge, but now we made it 100% free because we want to increase people getting to know each other. Once you connect, let's talk about what happens. Once you connect, it shows up on your CRM. So it shows up under inbound leads, actually. So it will say these are coming from landing page, but then if it comes from Investbase, it will say it comes from Investbase. So you almost reduce a set of problem, which is when I connect with someone, it basically comes into my CRM. Think of Facebook. When you get that lead, you still have to automatically import or manually import it into your own CRM. But because we built the CRM already, it's automatically into your CRM. from that point on, you can do all kinds of automations. You can say like, I just got this person from Investbase. They did the Investbase thing. I sent them an email. I'll wait a few days, send them another email. These people, they are more accredited than most people that you come in contact. They are legitimate investors. They, by definition, have invested in something before. Okay. So, but to know when you connect with them, they appear in your CRM. When they accept your connection, what happens? You get their email address. You don't always get their phone number, but you get their email address. I hope that makes sense. So what you get at the end is an email address. What you do with it is we open the door. It's up to you if you want to walk in. You need to do a lot of work. Getting their email address is like 10% of the battle. It's not 90% of the battle. A lot of our customers kind of sometimes get confused of like, oh, now I can raise money, right? No, like that's good job. That's the first step. You got connected. But a lot of the GPs actually use it to find great operators. And a lot of operators are used to use it to find good fund of fund managers. So let me go back here on the connecting with the operators part. What you can do is you can go to GPs and then you can do filter. Now, this thing will only show up. So I'm not a featured GP, but if I were a featured GP, because this is again my test account, there is a way. So let me temporarily turn it on right now, actually. So let me go to marketplace and then I'm gonna do show on Investbase. I'm gonna click on save. And then now if I refresh this, and then if I go into filter, I can go to filter. You see, this thing shows up. Expect the raise amount and rows. So I can find the people, they're like co-GPs or fund of fund managers or vice versa, and then filter it down to that level and the amount that they can raise. So it's a really good opportunity, a network to find your fellow team members. I hope that makes sense. All right. Okay, so we are here. You can connect with the operators, and connecting with the operators, the result is that you get their email address, i.e., a contact. Okay, so it's exactly like going to a conference. You exchange business cards, except that you don't have to punch in their business card. You don't have to do anything, and you get to know a lot about them. Let's talk about connecting with other folks, connecting with LPs. Okay, so let's talk about LPs. So let me do that. Actually, let me kind of unfeature myself because this is a sample profile. Okay, let's go into connecting with LPs. With LPs, here, for example, let's click into the most important number, by the way, is that you need to like zoom in and then see the number of investments. That's real. That is the number of investments through Cashflow Portal. This is not number. Yeah, so that's that. Okay. All right. Okay. So over here, you can see that there's Leandro. They made 4 investments. He invests with me, and then he invests with another GP of mine, and then he left a review, which is pretty cool. And then that's what that looks like. There should be a way. Right now, it's not showing up here, but that's okay. If they have a LinkedIn or if they have any kind of social media, it will also show up here. So you can Google them and so on. So there's that. Okay. So you can find LPs. The most important number you should look for is the number of investments. All right. Cool. So that's how you find LPs. The other thing that you find LPs, so the number of investments is a really good indicator. The other way is you can find LPs nearby. So like you can say, hey, I want to find the folks in the San Francisco and the kind of the Seattle area. And then do apply, and then this will filter out only the people in that area. Okay. So that's that. Now, obviously, as this grows bigger and bigger, there will be more database in here. All right, let's see if folks have any questions. Cool. Yes.
Yeah. Right. I'm just curious how you're going about increasing kind of the LPs in the platform, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm assuming everyone on this call is a GP. but how you're going about marketing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me answer a few questions. One is how many LPs are there? There are 1,700 active members. And then we raised about $6.5 million without charging a single dime. we should be earning about 500K if we are a co-GP, but we're not charging that for now. And second, I want to be super clear. The reason that it's only 1,700 members is that we do not poach, market, advertise to any one person in your database. It's a no on our book. I could have done it, but if we do it, there is the conscience reason, and then there is kind of just like the business reason. The conscience reason is like you never gave us that permission. We shouldn't do it. It's just like the morally right thing to do. But the business reason, honestly, as soon as your LPs heard from us about Investbase, I know for a fact the casual portal is over. So I've been a GP. I know, like, don't poach my LPs, right? So all the LPs that we get is through our own conferences, own marketing, my LPs, because I'm no longer a GP, and friends of friends. So whenever I go to conferences, we tell them, hey, you LP, you don't want to be a GP and you just want to learn more? Yes, check out Investbase. It's an independent third-party website, and we make a lot of things to be LP friendly. So one of the things we also promise the LPs is that the reviews cannot be deleted. So unfortunately, if LPs complain and GPs complain on Investbase, you hear from here, you hear me from here, that we're going to take an independent approach. Because the LPs are also complaining to us that like, hey, Investbase doesn't work because, the owner also owns a portal and it's going to be super GP friendly. I'm like, no, as a company, Investbase is Investbase. It's a independent third party, review website / a place for people to network. So there's that. So I answer a few questions there. Anjo, you raise your hand. So go ahead and you can put the question there, or you can speak.
Hey, Perry. Yeah, it's my first time joining one of the Flow Portal sessions, but I think you just answered it because, as soon as you talked about Investbase, that was the first question is, are investors being poached, which you already answered. And then secondly, you also mentioned that the thousands of investors that are currently in Investbase are really your connection. So are you doing ads to get them into Investbase? Like, how are you marketing that as well? Right.
Yeah.
And then for us as GPs, what's the incentive for us to help grow the Investbase community?
Yeah, that's right. We are putting ads into Investbase, and when we go to conferences, that's how we get some traction. And then investors will refer other investors through Investbase. So for example, if I go into here, let me go into actually, go to my. There, within Investbase, there is actually a refer button. And then at the very button, you can see if you click on refer, these are all the people who invest with me. These are all my connections. These are all my followers. But if I scroll all the way down, you can actually see that I introduced 42 investors. That's actually really powerful. A lot of let me talk about this before I talk about the incentive for the GPs, which is in the first half of the call. People don't invest with GPs. People invest because I made an introduction. Just trust me, out of that $6.7 million is technically like most of my work. It's like I referred them. It's like, hey, go talk to Granite Towers, go talk to Sanwa. And then apparently when I made an introduction, people tend to invest a lot more. Now, instead of thinking it as like, oh, why am I helping Investbase? Think of like, are the initial drivers helping Lyft and Uber succeed? Nobody thinks of it that way. All we have the same purpose, which is creating a better, actually trustworthy marketplace that GPs and LPs can connect. not doing kind of any kind of like, oh, I'm favoring one side, I'm favoring the other side, is intrinsically putting a third-party neutral platform that caters to the needs of both sides, that is truly transparent, and that has the data to back up that data is transparent, and using all the things that we have, which is we are the investor portal, we are the system of record to make that happen. People are kind of born into different circumstances. If I don't have cash flow portal, I'll just build a review website. And you can say there has a lot of pros because, it's a truly impartial. But because I was born into this other circumstances, which we have the data, people could say, well, you are biased towards the GPs. But having the data is actually a pro than a con, which is, hey, I know how GPs think. I also know how LPs think. I've been in the shoes of LP and GP. And what matters is the data being backed up by the actual system of record. For all purposes, if we are talking about growing Investbase, I 100% want Investbase to blossom, because if it does blossom, it will be the future brokerage firm for alternative investing. The LPs can find a very easy place to park their money. They have amazing reviews. When they get a distribution, they can put it into a virtual wallet, and then they can invest into the next deal. There's nothing also in the future that Investbase couldn't have an index fund, which is that Investbase is making the statement that we're going to put some amount of dollars across all our GPs. There's a lot of things we can do. And by growing that pie, the GPs succeed, we succeed. The LPs also succeed, because the first part of the call is my ultimate vision is to help everyone achieve financial freedom. And I don't see how, without building a marketplace, we can help the LPs find a really good venue to park their money. They can go to everyone's website, they can do, but there needs to be the crowdfunding data, there needs to be everyone else's data, and then there is to be the system of record data. We need all those data to build a true marketplace. In summary, I think we all agree that this is a problem. I believe having a marketplace is the best approach in the long run to solve that problem. It's a very, very difficult problem, and that's why, Anjo, I think you joined a little bit later, but in the beginning, I said the vision was always that. When I applied to YC, the very first idea was actually, I want to build an Investbase. YC rejected us, we got in the second time, and we spent the next 5 years building one side of the marketplace, which is suppliers. So there's that. Yeah. So I am not ashamed to say I want Investbase to be huge. But if it's huge, then I think the GPs and LPs all benefit. Yeah. And that's probably the most important thing I can do for the GPs, and probably the most important thing I can do for the LPs. Okay, cool. All right, cool. Let's talk about email. So I mentioned this already, which is like once you can connect them, you can email them. It's basically a contact. You can drip them. Okay. All right. Let me pause here again on what the GPs can do, and you can unmute yourself, and maybe you guys can tell me what is something that you want to do. Given what you know now, how would you give it a try as a GP?
Mm-hmm. Harry, I have a question while others are thinking, if it's okay.
Yeah, go for it. Mm-hmm.
So instead of doing like a debt fund, what I've discovered is equity-based lending at 50 to 60% loan to value. There's a huge underserved, very conservative market for this product. And so within your system, it's almost like a syndication on each asset that we put out. So and maybe this isn't the space to talk about that, but I definitely want to get with someone on your staff and figure out how to do that. These are smaller deals, and 50 to 250,000. I underwrite super conservatively based on the market rents must support what our debt obligation is. So these are lower balance things, but I'm trying to figure out within your platform how to do that and how to leverage the marketplace.
Right, absolutely. So one thing I do know that there is the assets that we do serve all kinds of real estate and alternative investments. That's why it's called Investbase. So there is a asset class that belongs to it, and some people actually like certain types of classes. Second, I will say you can talk to our platform 100%. Please schedule a call. But it's sometimes isn't even more important to just like talk to some of the LPs. They are kind of like free leads. You talk to them and say, "Hey, I have this thing. Do you know a lot, blah?" Don't make it like salesy, but make it like, "Oh, I want to get an opinion," because they will be like, "Oh yeah, I'm not interested." Or they're like, "Hey, send me some webinar deck, send me some deck so I can review that. This sounds interesting." Some people might want to do. I want to do like kind of these. Instead of vertical development, they are doing portable development. They just like ship it, container, and drop it in a place. That's a very interesting idea. I don't know if it works, but with sufficient number of LPs, there will be folks that are interested in that different asset class. Okay. Now, Rick asked a question about you mentioned this earlier. How does an investment return become verified? They become verified when you make distributions to LPs from Cashflow Portal, because we track the distributions and we track their investments, capital balances, and so we do know their IRR and their annualized cash and cash. Yep. Cool. All right. Since we only have 10 minutes, let's talk about the next steps for Investbase. So the next features are, the problem right now is LPs go on Investbase and they see a lot of deals. They couldn't really figure out who is it, what do I like better. Also, as I mentioned before, it takes enormous amount of work to get to know a LP. They don't easily get to know you and what you do. We are going to use AI to cut down on the time they need to understand your deal structure. So, for example, right now they have to read the investment pitch deck, and everyone's investment pitch deck is a little bit different. Sometimes the splits are hidden somewhere. The value proposition is hidden somewhere. The market is hidden somewhere. So we're going to have an AI summary that can summarize the webinar deck. And they have an AI chatbot that can also like ping it back and forth and then answer certain questions. That's going to make it super interactive. When we talk about Investbase, we often talk about how can we give more value to the LPs. And we will continue to do marketing to bring more LPs. But until we build a product that is like a no-brainer for the LPs, LPs do not come swarming in. No amount of kind of marketing will help in that sense until you build a great product for the LPs. The second thing in which that we are going to do is the concept of webinars. So you are all part of a marketplace on a weekly basis. Some people are raising money, and the LPs sometimes don't know investing in whom, but they are on the website because they want to get extra information about this whole space. And there's no better way to learn about the space but to watch a few webinars. So we're going to make it possible for your webinar, when you have a webinar, you let us know when the webinar, and we basically will ask them to join the webinar, and you will have a banner of like every day there's a calendar of like what's happening. So it's a actual community. Going back to here, people invest with other people because they see the performance. They do something together outside of just what you invest with me. And in this case, they get to learn from you. That's something we're going to do. The last thing I want to mention is some people ask us, is this only accredited investors? I have a 506B. Does it work? The answer is 100% works, because first, they are showing up to your webinar to learn. Second is when you connect with anyone, they are not saying they are investing with you. They're just connecting with you. And Kyle asked a question at the very beginning of like, when do we track when the GP LP get connected? What's this paper trail? We have the paper trail on when you get connected. It's the most substantiated investor substantive relationship you can know. All your data is tracked in the Cashflow Portal CRM. So you know when they get connected, you even know when they visit your webinar, you get to know when you send them an email, when they book a call, and the list goes on. So I'm really thinking about it from a holistic perspective, which is from the moment the LPs wanting to invest with you, to connecting with you, to attending the webinar, to finally investing. That whole process is tracked. Okay, so these are the two things that we are very much interested in working on. That's the roadmap for Investbase. And then finally, what will Investbase become? We wanted to become, my vision is that it's a brokerage firm for LPs. So LPs can find alternative assets in real estate. They can find special purpose vehicles. Syndications is a type of special purpose vehicle. Actually, it's just a large SPV. The foreigners, which we have a lot of these investors, can find EB5 opportunities. And so we have quite a bit of these customers. So they invest the money, they get some distributions. And knowing that we have just launched banking, which is going really well right now, there's no reason that the virtual wallet could not exist on the other side, which is on the LP side. And once the LP has some sort of virtual wallet, they can accrue interest on that wallet or some cash rewards on that wallet, and then they can use it to invest into another deal. There's eventually, not right now, but many years from now, they can also invest into stocks. So it's basically saying that we are a brokerage firm for LPs with the addition that they can invest into more GPs. Again, going back to the very beginning, the vision is to help people achieve financial freedom. It's just that after many, many years of thinking about the problem, my contribution to this space is that I believe a marketplace is the best way to help solve that problem. Yes, it will make us look really good if we can build that, but that's also a very, very difficult thing to build. The GPs can be broken down into 3 categories. The GPs can be broken down into like the early adopters. So that's the first group. And then there are the folks that are like, okay, if he once it has a little bit of traction, I will come join. That's the second group. And then there will be the late adopters. It's like, I'm not going to help contribute to the marketplace, but once it becomes really big, I basically have no other choice but to be part of it. And those, what I will call them, I call them the taxi driver agencies. They're pretty big. They have their own way. And technically, there's no reason for them to join the Uber and the Lyft in the early days, but they have their own way. That's fine. But slowly and slowly, we feel like this is the way to go because we need a product like this in the world. And I believe this is the best way to get to that end state. I know this is an audacious vision. And we spent many, many years building one side of the marketplace. As the investor portal has even better customers, we will attract better LPs. But most of the time right now is spent on improving the LP experience for Investbase, because we did a really good job on the GP side already. We just have to build a great product for the LPs. So give it some time. And then, but in the meantime, if you want to be an early adopter, feature your profile, add a review step. You actually don't have to feature the profile to get reviews, just so you know. You can actually turn on the review step, see how good the reviews are. If they're really good, then you feature your profile. That's actually a little bit of a trick you could use. And then, so there's that. Okay. All right. Yes. Anjo, we will send the recording out and then you can watch the first half. And then if you folks want to know a little bit about how to set up your profile, use this link. You can open up this link, and then happy to talk to you about how to and happy to get some suggestions from you folks as well.